Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. I am going to address this question for Ms. Berkowitz. In your testimony, you noted that some of the lapses in judgment and leadership at the CDC, the USDA, and OSHA under the Trump administration. Meat processing facilities didn't seem to have the guidance they needed to protect workers while maintaining the food supply chain, and OSHA was noticeably absent when workers needed them most. So, Ms. Berkowitz, in your opinion, hold on one second. In your opinion, what does the federal government need to do in order to prevent something like this from happening again? Is it better communication? Is it more staffing? Maybe just talk through what you think should happen so we don't go through this again.
Oh, thank you for that question. So what happened in this pandemic is, CDC started issuing guidance, and guidance is voluntary. You can follow it or not. But what happened right at the beginning of the pandemic, at the very beginning of March, is OSHA decided not to turn that guidance into some kind of requirement. They decided not to issue, federal OSHA, not to issue any requirements for employers to implement. And second, they then decided that they weren't even going to use the CDC guidance in enforcement, as previous administrations have done when there has not been, a standard. So I think it is imperative that OSHA, within the next 2 weeks, as the president directed, issue emergency temporary standards that are like the standards issued in Virginia or in California or Michigan or Oregon and Washington, which have various emergency standards already in place, that OSHA issue an emergency temporary standard, and that they start working on a permanent standard, so that there will be procedures in place that companies know they have to follow, and they can't say, oh, well, CDC told me this, but it's just guidance, and I don't have to follow it. I mean, I think that, there are many industries that knew what to do, and they complied. The auto industry, other industries, or unionized industries like the supermarket, like here where we live in Maryland, DC, the unions made a huge difference in getting the supermarkets to move people 6 feet apart and to give masks and face shields and hand sanitizers. But we need also requirements, and that's why OSHA needs to issue requirements and get them so employers know legally what they have to do.
Thank you. Ms. Castaneda, you have been sitting there very patiently, and you were kind enough to come here and share the story of your father and others. Very dramatic. Hairnets uses PPE. I mean, it's unfathomable. Blood on masks that had to be used and used again. You were limited to 5 minutes in your remarks. I want you to, if you can, paint a picture of your father and what he was facing day in and day out, in addition to those graphic details that you shared with us earlier.
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. So as I noted, there were many instances where a lot of our parents, like I said, many of the members of our group, all of our parents have worked there for decades, and they've been nothing but loyal to these companies. They're responsible employees. They, they're rooted in the community. And so, yes, their jobs were at stake. But, some of the things we heard, one of the parents of one of our members said that she wanted to be tested because when one of her coworkers immediately next to her tested positive, to call and tell her that she had tested positive and encouraged her to get tested. She went to the HR department and asked if she could. She was allowed to, but they told her explicitly not to disclose her test results to anyone besides the HR department. And so, you have workers in a situation where the company is telling them that they can't disclose their test results to each other. The company themselves is not telling workers when they've been exposed, and you had a situation in Nebraska where public health departments could also not tell workers and give information as to the number of positive cases in each plant. So just a total lack of transparency. In addition to that, a lack of responsibility and accountability on behalf of the companies. Workers are often given information in language that they cannot understand. Many workers of color, English is not their first language. It's not their primary language. It's not even required that they know English. to be hired by these companies. So to give them information in a language that is inaccessible is appalling, and it's irresponsible.
All right, thank you, Ms. Castaneda. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Thank you.